Now that we've learned to do some of the basic shapes, I want to take it a little step further, stuff that I forgot in the last little video. But if I wanted to take this, let's pick a big one so you can see what's going on. If I grab a corner icon here that allows me to change the corner radius, I can come over here. I want to talk a little bit about the selection and the direct selection tool. If I grab the direct selection tool, if I come over here and grab the direct selection on a star, I am able to manipulate any piece and part that I want. I can create a custom shape. If I grab a circle and by this, I can just move one of the shapes, and look, it's like a rubber band. So if I get rid of some of these pieces here, but if I click on this one and I just click on that one corner, it allows me to change just the radius of that one. So if I want to come back over here and grab this corner radius, I can drag and just move that corner radius. So the selection tool, if I go back to the selection tool, look at that. It allows me to change, manipulate the size of my shape a little bit. But if I grab the direct selection tool, I can grab the handles, I can do whatever I want. I can grab the Bezier handles, which we're going to learn about more in a minute. But the direct selection tool basically manipulates the shape completely, whereas the selection tool, all that does is allow us to stretch and pull and rotate. So you're gonna do more of this, so you'll get it as we go. I'm going to do a select all, and I am going to delete just to get rid of all this stuff. And I'm going to go back into my shape tools, and I'm going to go to the star tool again. And if we click and drag out with the star tool, we found out that holding the shift key and everything else, it allows us to create stars different ways and so on and so forth. But if I click before clicking and dragging, it gives me the star dialog box. And I can say, ooh, you know what? I would like to increase the number of stars by 25 to 25. And when I draw, I get more of a star burst type of effect and not just a regular star. So the star tool, which sounds kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever use that, is quite a tool that you'll use quite a bit. Here again, to stress the whole direct selection and selection tool. Selection being black, direct selection being white arrow. If I grab any of the handles, I can stretch, pull, rotate, whatever I want to do here. But if I grab the direct selection tool and I click on this, I can grab any individual handle that I want and manipulate those pieces and parts. So the direct selection tool allows us to manipulate quite a bit, where the selection tool just allows us to move the thing around and stretch and pull it. What I also wanted to show is, notice that when I have the direct selection tool selected and I have a point selected and I hit delete, it's going to just delete that point, and then if I hit delete again, it will delete all the points. What I want to show you also about the differences between these tools, is right now if I select this star, by default it has a fill of white, stroke of black. If I have it selected and I change the fill to none, it's hard to tell if you have a fill of white or a fill of none. But if you come over here with the move tool and I try to click on this to move it, notice if I click in the middle and I move it, this one up here, if I click in the middle, it immediately selects because there's a fill. If I click over in the middle of this one, it doesn't select it because there's nothing to select. It has no fill. So if you are wanting to move an object that you've created that has no fill but a stroke, you need to select the stroke, or you need to draw a box around it, and then when you go to move it, you need to click on that area. See, if I select this by grabbing it by the stroke and I grab inside the area, not inside the shape, does nothing. So if I click, and even in here, I need to move it by grabbing the stroke. This one here, if I grab it and move it, it will do whatever I want it to do because it has a fill, okay? So remember, if you click on it and it's not doing anything, what's going on? I know I just built this. Something's wrong with my program. It has to, you got to make sure it's got the fill of stroke. So if you click in the middle and you're not getting anything, just do a little box on it and you'll notice, oh, there's no fill. So you have to make sure you select it the proper way, okay? Between that and the curves and the points and the ends, doing them individually, that pretty much wraps up your basic shapes. If we go to the line tool real quick, if we draw a line with the line tool, it's basically just drawing a line. If I click and drag with the shift key held down, it locks me into 90 degrees sideways or up and down or a 45-degree angle. So if I start to click and drag out, I can draw any length dimension I want, but as soon as I hold down the shift key, it's going to lock me in to 45-degree angles. See how that works? Underneath that tool, we have the arc tool, which is going to create arcs for you, which is actually kind of helpful and useful. Underneath that, we have the spiral tool, which is very nice. If we hold down the shift key, it does it like that. If I click and drag out from the center, there's lots of things. If I click and drag and I hold down the space bar, it allows me to move. If I click once, it's going to change. It gives me the options for the spiral that allows me to draw the opposite way. So most of these tools work very similar. The grid tool, the rectangular grid tool, is basically a rectangle tool with a grid inside of it, and you can change that by clicking once and telling how many horizontal dividers and vertical dividers, width, size, all the other stuff that's going with it, and you can create a grid box. Not much different than the rectangle, but it's very nice that way. The last tool underneath there is the polar grid, which in theory I think this is a neat idea if you need to do charts and stuff like that, but I don't think I've ever used it. I've tried to use it a couple times and it just doesn't work exactly the way I want. There are some neat tutorials out there on this tool, but we're not going to worry about it. I'm going to select all and delete, and also underneath we have the flare tool, which kind of gives you this flare effect. Again, not one of my favorite things. It can be used. I probably have used it once in a while, but it creates like a lens flare completely out of vectors. Again, something that if you want to play with, it's there, but you do what you want with it.